Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We have a special show this week with 3 brand new reviews, and we welcome back our young critic, Brookly.
Hi, people.
To help give an advanced review for the upcoming musical retelling of the Charles Dickens tale, A Christmas Carol, entitled Spirited, starring Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, that will release on Apple TV Plus November 18th. I am excited yet scared to hear what she has to say about this film. Also on the show, the coming-of-age story about strength of a family and a generational pursuit of the American dream in Armageddon Time. And the world belongs to Weird in Weird, the Yankovic Story. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch, a roar and a burst of flame.
The Movie Wire podcast.
You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
Another retelling of the Charles Dickens classic, A Christmas Carol. Only this time we have Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds to sing us through this new adaptation. Well, sort of. In the new Apple TV Plus original, Spirited.
On a bitter, cold Christmas Eve, one dark soul is selected for redemption by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. A tradition that continues to this very night.
Like A Christmas Carol?
Yes, if you would just let me get this out. Sit.
So out of all the people on the planet, murderers, people who do gender reveal parties, I'm the guy you're gonna haunt.
You know what? Forget it. I told you, the guy is a level 20 pain in the Dickens.
Come on, I can take this guy.
I'm your ghost of Christmas present.
La 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 la, I'm not watching your dramatic re-encrapment.
Hey, I'm haunting you. You can't just run away from me when I'm haunting you. Hello?
I believe he can be a positive force for mankind.
And he's got his hands all over everything.
Yeah, I wish. Maud, are you texting HR?
No. People don't change.
We got a runner! That's just fun to watch. I'm here to change him to being a more positive force for humanity. Clint. Yeah.
You Photoshop yourself into these pictures of my executive VP?
I don't think so.
Oh, you want that?
What I want is for you to shut up and let me do my job.
Is there a ghost of Christmas Grumpy? Because you could do that job.
This is where real change begins.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he's definitely... Nope, he's fine.
He's good.
Well,
he's good.
Well, none of it's
Squirrely.
real anyway.
Now let's just close our eyes for a moment and picture this pitch. Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, and a musical adaptation of the classic Christmas Carol story by Charles Dickens. Some of you will think it sounds awful. Some of you will say, count me in. But one thing we can agree on is that this idea will pique a little curiosity of the final product. This comedic duo, on paper, the studio saw dollar signs and audiences knew was going to eventually happen with these two pairing up. But there's a problem with these two actors in a film like this. It is just pure fact it doesn't work. But I will get into that in just 1 second. Now, it's just not for the pure fault of the talents on screen. It is just so easy to blame the talents that we are witnessing on screen for what we are watching, just for the mere fact they are just right there in front of us. But that's the least of the issues here with this film. Now, most of us are familiar with this classic tale of redemption, where three spirits visit Scrooge and take him on a journey to visit his past, present, and future and attempt to deal with the past pain that grew his bitterness, his anger, his present situation that shows an impact that his hate has on others, and his future if he doesn't change his ways. Spirited takes a concept, mixes it with Bill Murray's 1988 film Scrooge, adds some in-your-face comedy, and makes it a musical. And again, sort of. The film was directed by Sean Anders and written by Anders and John Morris. Both have penned screenplays for some hit-and-miss comedies, with Anders writing and directing 2008's Sex Drive, Horrible Bosses 2, Dumb and Dumber 2, and Daddy's Home 1 and 2. John Morris with the same resume of writing credits, with the exception of Mr. Popper's Penguins and We're the Millers. This is where we see the issues. Anders, even though has shown a spark of balance between comedy and mild emotional impact from his climatic endings from his previous works, and mostly I'm going to refer to Daddy's Home 1 and 2. Anders had a certain control over his talent on screen, from Ferrell to Wahlberg, mainly because the two acted in contrast to each other, and it balanced them out. And by the end of the film gave us a clear vision of what it wanted to be, Daddy's Home 2 being more successful than the first one when it comes to this messaging. But where the filmmakers and studios got this so wrong is that they were so preoccupied with our two biggest star powers that they didn't stop to think about having the same sarcastic, subtle slew of crescendos and decrescendos of comedic line delivery that these two styles have. And the fact that each one has the talent of doing a loud whisper when delivering a funny line. The filmmakers didn't stop to think how or if this would work, or if they had the right director to be able to control these talent. And you can tell there's absolutely no control over Ferrell and Reynolds. It plays like a comedic free-for-all and a 2-hour sarcasm contest, where these two just seem to be competing over each other on who's the funnier sarcastic actor, and they forgot that there is a story going on in the background. Spirited starts off on a high note where we see our first musical number, which features our main character, Clint Briggs, played by Ryan Reynolds, who makes a living on marketing hate through online marketing, from digging up dirt from elected officials, company competitors, to attempting to ruin an 11-year-old boy's chances of a school election. Now, in our first musical number, we feature Briggs, who is giving a speech to pump up a room of real Christmas tree farmers that have had their companies sink due to fake trees and one-day delivery from online competitors. Here, Reynolds' character Briggs sings the song Bringin' Back Christmas, which is a great number, and those that have listened to the show know I love a good musical. This song and the style reminded me a lot of How to Succeed in Business Without Even Trying. It's classy, catchy, and it is a great way to set up the film for what we are in store for. But the songs tend to go downhill from here, with the exception of a song that actually utilizes Ferrell and Reynolds' comedy appropriately, and that is a funny song entitled Good Afternoon. After our initial grand entrance of Bringin' Back Christmas, we are met with a solo number from Octavia Spencer, who does a great job, but the camera work and lighting does nothing to support her, and the number just looks amateurish. Now, directly after that, we get a musical number that will start the film on a downward spiral, which is entitled The Story of Your Life, performed by Patrick Page as our Marley. As Page performs, I was engulfed into this musical number, until Reynolds' character interrupts the song multiple times to deliver a Ryan Reynolds sarcastic line. And as I'm watching patiently for Page to get on with his number and have Ryan Reynolds just shut up, Page gives up on the number after being interrupted multiple times and then just disappears. It's like when you're watching a movie at a movie theater, and at a pivotal moment of the plot, a couple right in front of you, slightly off to your right, are thinking they're talking quietly, but it is absolutely apparent they are talking. And the mere fact they think they're being quiet is almost more annoying than just talking. This one instance of interruption during the movie isn't what annoys me, it's the fact it happens multiple numbers throughout the film. Multiple musical numbers have to be interrupted by Ferrell and Reynolds to ensure that they are in the spotlight and not the music. And it's like a child trying to get your attention by saying your name over and over and over again while you're in the middle of a conversation trying to make a point.
Mom! Mom! Mommy! Mommy! Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
And I was almost insulted by what I was seeing on screen. It's like watching a live performance and somebody answers their cell phone in the middle of a musical number. You can tell director and writer Anders and Morris wanted to make the film self-aware, that the characters know it was a musical. I can understand and appreciate the attempt, but the execution of this was absolutely horrid. This is where we also see clearly that Anders has no clear control over his cast, specifically Ferrell and Reynolds. It plays like a 2-hour look what I can do, or anything you can do, I can do better. The movie is an attempted vehicle to spotlight these two comedians dressed up like a Christmas movie. And for a film to target the Christmas audiences, what is really missing here is heart. And that is solely based on the writing in this movie. And we can tell the filmmakers banked on the improvisations from Ferrell and Reynolds during the film because the dialogue was so dry and stiff, it was like a Christmas tree that's been sitting out on the curb for 2 months after Christmas. There's no passion, there's no emotion, there's no life in the script. And when our two main characters are not delivering comedic lines, they seem lost on how to act out serious lines. In fairness, the movie did have a great premise and has some fresh ideas to make the story current that we haven't seen from an adaptation here before. And I did enjoy the pure thought of it, especially with some reveals during the second half of the movie that I felt original. And when we are allowed to listen to the full musical numbers, they are actually quite good. But this could have been a Christmas classic given the premise, and I left my screening completely frustrated that it fell into this category where you leave saying this movie could have been something special in the right hands. Reynolds and Ferrell had the potential of some good chemistry, but it's not shown in a movie like this, and it is wasted. As I was writing this review, I was actually looking at the movie poster online of the pair standing side by side. I began to stare closer like I was analyzing a Magic Eye picture, and I thought to myself, what's a movie that utilizes these actors' talents that wouldn't seem that they're competing for screen time and can utilize their two comedic styles? As I looked at the poster longer, I began to realize that Ferrell could play an older version of Ryan Reynolds. Now that's a premise these two would be perfect for. Maybe a sequel to The Adam Project, who knows? But putting these two together with the same kind of sarcastic tone does not work, and it actually brings out the bitterness when it comes to a holiday feeling. This movie doesn't feel like Christmas. It doesn't even go into the category of Christmas. It's just two actors just being sarcastic on screen. It is almost like a Debbie Downer of Christmas movies. Spirited is a disappointing mess of a movie that left me annoyed, frustrated, and irritated when leaving the theater. It does have moments of putting a smile on my face on occasion, but then the film realizes you're having a good time and you start to feel that little holiday spirit. It quickly does everything in its power to pull a Krampus on you and take it away. Spirited is a perfect example of when films are adapted and remade to the point of idiocracy. I'm giving Spirited 2 stars. Brooklyn, it's your time to shine.
This is Brooklyn on the Movie Wire.
The podcast you've been waiting for. The Movie Wire is your show. The place to find what you're looking for. Movie lovers, the time has come. The Movie Wire.
And we're bringing back a special guest that we haven't heard from a while. My
No.
Astonishing. Brilliant.
No.
What? I can't even compliment you anymore.
No.
Why?
Because I don't like it.
You don't like being complimented? Why?
Because.
Because why?
Just because.
Fine. I will respect your boundaries and I will give you space from getting compliments from dear old dad. Everybody, welcome the astonishing, fantastic, brilliant young critic, Brooklyn. Brooklyn, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good.
Good. All right. So we haven't heard from you. You haven't been on the show. You've been busy. What's been going on?
A lot.
I know you've had a lot going on. I know you went to your first dance.
I wouldn't really call it a dance. We didn't go slow dancing.
Well, did you dance?
Yeah.
Brooklyn, I have plenty of videos of you dancing, so I know you danced.
No.
Maybe I should just post it to my Instagram and Twitter
of
Brooklyn dancing.
No.
No, I know I got a little emotional. Setting you off made me a little emotional because it was just like yesterday I was walking you to kindergarten and now you're going to your first dance.
I saw you crying.
I did not cry.
I saw him crying while I was about to go downstairs to get water, but I didn't because he was crying.
I was not crying.
You were too.
I was cutting onions.
You weren't even in the kitchen.
It's your first dance. Oh, my heart. Oh,
please stop.
It hurts.
It's embarrassing.
Oh, it hurts so bad.
I feel so sorry for you guys.
Okay. But you had a fun time at the dance.
Yeah.
I know I have plenty of videos of you dancing. Hey, you were good. I saw you do the Macarena. That was pretty good.
Stop it, please.
What else did you do? It was like a jumping and up and down thing. I don't know.
It's for a party in the USA.
That's right. Can you sing that for me?
No.
And it also hurt that you got asked to the dance by a boy. How did that go?
Terribly. Well, I know you didn't take it so well.
Well, yeah. I mean, a boy asked you to a dance.
You were crying when I told you.
I was not crying at that.
Yeah, you were.
No.
You were crying about the dance and that boy.
No.
Which we're not saying his name.
No, I was crying because I think my head whipped back to look at you so fast I think I sprained something. It hurt. My neck. That's all. And my heart.
Please stop.
All right. So, but overall, you had a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Moving aside, so you've had the dance. I know you've been busy with football and all that. But I just want to say it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. So thank you for being here. And I was super glad I got to take you to the special screening they had of Spirited. Wasn't it pretty cool? You got to see Spirited before anybody else at a special screening. That was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Now, I am dying to hear what you thought of Spirited. Now, I gave it 2 stars, and I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
You're a Grinch.
What?
You're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole.
Why are you calling me a Grinch? Wait, even before that was actually pretty impressive. How did you even know the lyrics to that?
I don't
know. Even know the lyrics.
I don't know. It's a part of me, and because you're my father.
I don't know if I should be insulted or impressed.
Both. Mostly insulted.
I think you're right. I feel insulted, but impressed at the same time. Well done.
You should be more insulted.
Ouch, you are vicious tonight, I swear. All right, so Brooklyn, I'm a Grinch. Why am I a Grinch?
Because you gave a good movie 2 stars, and I'm surprised because you like this type of stuff.
I love musicals, and as I said in my
review,
yeah, and again, usually musicals will have a soft part of me, and I'll usually lean towards the positive side. But like I said in my review, what annoyed me was they kept interrupting the musical numbers.
That's what's hilarious.
Yeah, for the first time, but when you keep doing it, it just becomes annoying.
Not really, I mean...
Okay, so what did you like about it, the Ghost of Christmas Future of movies?
This was the best type of... This is one of my favorite movies about the future, Christmas past and present, or whatever.
So you're referring to The Story of a Christmas Carol?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's funny and hilarious and has some musical numbers and it actually is more modern.
Yeah, and I would agree. Now, like I said, the premise, the idea of it was really good. But I think the execution of what they did with it was lazy.
How is it lazy?
Because it relied on Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds to just kind of tell jokes. They were competing over each other, and it just became obnoxious.
I agree.
Yes, I got one.
Kind of.
Got it.
You hated it. I liked
it. No, I didn't hate it. 2 stars is average. It was an okay watch.
Average.
The movie is average.
It's a good movie.
But I will give, like I said, I will give it credit. The musical numbers, when they're not interrupted by the annoyance of Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds' comedy, I thought were actually pretty catchy and really fun to listen to.
No, this kind of reminds me of the time that we voted or did about the Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you liked it. I was like,
Now, when it comes to Christmas movies, did this movie get you ready for Christmas, or are there better things you would recommend to watch?
This gave me a little Christmas chills.
Did you? So that brings me to my next follow-up question. When we're watching the movie, other than the Charles Dickens story of A Christmas Carol, could you even tell it was a Christmas movie?
Yeah, there's a lot of Christmas stuff around it, and it kind of reminded me of Christmas. It made me want hot chocolate.
Why hot chocolate?
Because it's a Christmas thing.
They didn't even have hot chocolate in the movie.
It talked about it.
Trivia. How many Christmas trees did you see in this movie?
Like at least 10.
I can barely remember 2.
Wow. I can see why you're a Grinch.
Oh, gosh. I want to see if I can guess your rating. Is there anything you didn't like about the movie?
how they made one of the people in the movie look.
Okay. Who would that be? I'm trying to think.
The present guy, spirit present.
So that would be the main character, Will Ferrell.
Yeah, like his costume, like that look.
And I
that's
think
not even present either.
You bring up a good point, because the other issue that I didn't mention in my review was the character's costume design just looked bland. It looked boring. Nothing really stood out.
My favorite costume was the guy from the future, and when like points at them.
Oh, Ghost of Christmas Future, where he just points.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And his voice, it's so deep.
That was pretty amusing. I'm going to predict. I'm going to say you're going to give it 3.5. Oh, am I right? Do I know you that well?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 3.5 stars. A half a star away from cinematic perfection goes to Spirited from our young critic, Brooklyn. You're laughing. You're either embarrassed or proud of your rating. Which one?
I'm sorry.
You were just cracking up over there, so...
Your face is just making me laugh.
What's wrong with my face?
It's just the look you're giving me.
What look am I giving you?
And then your tone of your voice.
What's wrong with my tone? Tell me, what's wrong with my tone? I just want a review, Brooklyn. I'm thinking you're proud of this rating. We are patiently awaiting Brooklyn to stop laughing, where she can tell us whether the 3.5 star rating is from embarrassment or pure stubbornness of sticking to her guns that this is mere perfection of a Christmas movie. Which one will it be? Stay tuned. All right, so you're giving it 3.5 stars. I'm giving it 2 stars. We are far apart on this one. I think we just lost our streak of agreeing on movies on this one.
Yeah.
So, Brooklyn, I want to thank you for coming back to the show. And I know everybody's missed you and missed your brilliant opinions when it comes to the movies you go to, and the kids' opinion, as a matter of fact. Thank you for taking time out of your hectic, busy schedule to make some time with dear old Dad. So again, thank you, Brooklyn. I know we have a lot of movies coming out the next couple of months. I hope you can take time out of your hectic, busy schedule to allow me to take you to a movie and be back on the show.
Yeah.
Awesome. With that said, Brooklyn, did you already brush your teeth?
Yeah.
As I see you chugging Gatorade right now, what do you think I'm going to say next?
Go brush your teeth.
That's right. All right. So, Brooklyn, say bye to everybody for me.
Bye.
All right. Go brush your teeth.
Fine.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, don't forget to check out my reviews for movies that just hit streaming and are available to rent or buy now, including the bland Stepford Wives' Tale retelling Don't Worry Darling received 2 stars, the new rom-com with 2 of the biggest smiles in Hollywood, Ticket to Paradise, in which I gave 2.5 stars, the movie that's so over the top that it actually works. And it's a love letter to the 80s slasher fans in The Terrifier 2, which I gave 3 stars. And finally, the Kevin Smith third installment of this Clerks trilogy, Clerks brought a tear, a smile, and 3 stars. Now, you can find those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow or subscribe and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. And make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. I also just want to take a moment to talk about one of my favorite podcasts out there. With so many movie podcasts out there, here is one that stands out. And I have told this man before on his show how much I appreciate his show bringing films that many may not have seen and bringing them back to life in an always fascinating deep dive. There are a lot of stories that have been told for film, and this man has made it a mission to bring these stories back to life. And that's the Cult-Worthy Podcast with host Antonio. I've had the pleasure of appearing on his show 4 times now, and right now you can listen to his latest episode in which Antonio has graciously invited me back to discuss a topic that I absolutely fell in love with, which is episode 70, entitled Cult Fiction, where Antonio and I deep dive into 3 film adaptations of legendary author Philip K. Dick. Make sure you check out the Cult-Worthy Podcast and make sure you follow or subscribe to the show. I will put a link in the description for that episode, but let's hear from Antonio himself.
The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join me, Antonio Palacios, each week as I guide you through a never-ending sea of obscure cinema and cult-worthy gems that deserve a rediscovery. Find me on all listening platforms and at thecultworthy.com. The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join us.
A deeply personal coming-of-age story about the strength of family and the generational pursuit of the American dream in the new James Gray film Armageddon Time.
The United States stands for an idea whose time is now.
Ronald Reagan will win tonight.
What a schmuck.
I think I want to be an artist when I grow up.
You're going to be an artist if you want to be. Nothing's going to stop you.
You're going to college.
He'll have dinner with kings if he plays his cards right.
I really like your stickers.
My stepbrother gave them to me. He's in the Air Force.
That's so cool.
How dare you! I'll menace to you!
But you're not to associate with him again.
What do you mean? Why?
I think you know what I mean.
My parents are sending me to my brother's school.
It's heavy.
In this institution, you can be anything you want to be. It won't be because of a handout. It'll be because you earned your way there.
Something's bugging you. What is it?
Sometimes kids say bad words about the black kids. Who's that? Somebody from my old school. Did they ever come to your house?
What do you do when that happens?
Obviously nothing, of course.
You think that's smart? My mother, when we came over here, we didn't have much.
Why'd she come here?
Because they wanted to kill her, that's why. They were soldiers, and sometimes they go out looking for Jews. They hated us then, and they still hate us. So we got on a boat and we came over here to America, the land of dreams.
You just wanted to be like you.
I want you to be a whole lot better than me. Life is unfair. Be thankful when you get a leg up. You make the most of your break and do not look back.
All my hopes are with you and your brother for my whole life.
Next time those schmucks say anything bad about those kids, you're gonna say something. You're gonna be a mensch, okay? Firm handshake. Okay, give me a hug.
Now, let's go down the checklist here. We have a great cast, check. Coming of age story, check. Period piece, check. Sir Anthony Hopkins, check. Racial topics and theme, check. Child abuse, check. A tragedy, check. A dysfunctional family, check. And finally, a director that's well overdue for his Oscar shot, and check. Armageddon Time has checked a lot of boxes when it comes to what it needs to make a film queued up for awards time. Now, going to the theater, I had 2 movies to choose from to feature on this episode of the show, and what directed me towards this film was one key phrase and 2 cast members. That's Coming of Age Story and Anne Hathaway and Sir Anthony Hopkins. This film will find a lot of temptation from audiences to see based on how many topics it tries to tackle. It's like tweeting out 2 words, which would be, Armageddon Time, and then all the additional characters' emotions are just hashtags. The film was written and directed by James Gray, who has directed and written Ad Astra, The Lost City of Z, and The Immigrant. There is something off on his work here. There are times he captures a real human element of emotion, but where he lacks is the attention to supporting detail to support his emotional attachment of messaging. The film runs a montage of characters that we really don't get to know anything about other when we feel frustration, sadness, anger. We only get a rare glimpse of each character that surrounds our Paul Graff, played by Banks Rapetta, who gives a grounded, realistic performance as a 6th grade boy, and does a fantastic job being a boy in an authoritarian society. Now the film kicks off with Paul starting 6th grade in class doing what he is passionate about, and that's drawing, while we are introduced to the authoritarian figure, which is his 6th grade teacher, Mr. Turkletaub, played by Andrew Polk. Here, Paul draws Mr. Turkletaub's face and gets it passed around the class, and Mr. Turkletaub snatches the picture to reveal it's a face on a chicken's body. When Mr. Turkletaub asks for the culprit to come forward or suffer the cancellation of PE, Paul turns himself in and now has to stand in front of class. We then get Johnny Davis, played by Jalen Webb, who cracks a joke and ends up at the front of the class as well. This situation kicks off the friendship between Paul and Johnny, and their friendship travels through the movie. We see little dialogue to help build the chemistry between the two. We get multiple scenes of the two getting themselves into trouble, but we see little of their friendship in a natural tone. There isn't any realistic conversation or dialogue when it comes to normal 6th graders interacting. It almost feels like an adult authority figure is hovering over them while they converse. Their conversation is brief, awkward, and we don't gain any human emotion from their interactions. Writer and director James Gray feels lost in how children interact, and by doing so, it dulls down the coming-of-age story because it lacks heart. Sir Anthony Hopkins, who plays Paul's grandpa, gives a stellar performance as we would expect from any of his performances, and he is the biggest heart of the film and has the most well-written pieces. We feel his importance to the family and more specifically to Paul. Their relationship has the biggest chemistry out of anything of the characters, and I wish we would have gotten more from it. Even though we feel the chemistry between them, there is still something missing and lacking when it comes to the emotional attachment. We feel we should be getting more from Hopkins' character and needed more screen time to truly appreciate what he meant to the family. Now, Hopkins gives a speech towards the end of the film that is the most memorable part of the movie, where he is on a park bench with Paul talking about the topic of fitting in or standing up for what's morally right when it comes to racism, while the family dances around this topic throughout the film, without a true focus of messaging, and it comes across like it's just a vehicle to drive the little points this film has to offer. And it attempts to sum it up with an Anthony Hopkins speech that again is memorable, but it has little material to back up the speech to make it effective. Now, what James Gray does extremely well here is the camera angles that are executed extremely well to catch emotional pain. But he relies on this way too much, and he relies on the technicalities of the magic of the camera to capture moments without any subcontext of emotion. We feel the emotion from the camera, but not from the characters. It's a false set of emotion, and after the camera pans away from the emotion, it tries to focus and force upon us. It is soon forgotten due to the lack of personality or depth from the actual characters. We feel the emotion and stress from the situations James Gray portrays on us, but that's just our human nature to care upon the situation, topic, and visuals we are seeing on screen. But it's not a lasting emotion that Gray is longing for when it comes to his messaging. It's an overconfidence in his material. I usually give credit where I see it on the technical aspects of film, but where Gray succeeds, the cinematography lacks. We at times get confused on where and when the time and place of the film is intended to be. Given the set pieces, dialogue settings, and lack of information, it is easily confused on where it is set. Armageddon Time lacks from the misguided direction of writing and the character intrigue. It bounces from character situation dilemma to situation dilemma without allowing a true discovery or focus of any of the characters. I felt like I was a kid being forced to watch home videos from the 80s from a family that I didn't know, and after home videos are done, I felt very antsy to get outside, and in this case I was halfway out of my seat to leave through the exit doors. It throws in random attempts at themes and topics without truly discovering them. The film has a checklist of emotional attacks it wanted to accomplish, but fails at a majority of them, and when the credits rolled, I felt almost cheated by what it was trying to sell me. The likability of Sir Anthony Hopkins and Anne Hathaway, the camera techniques, and the performance of Paul Graff, given the lack of dialogue within his cast members, are what saved this film. Armageddon Time is an obvious stab at the Oscar season, and its motives are clear that it has an obvious checkbox that it's trying to cross out to the point it's almost insulting. I'm giving Armageddon Time 2 stars. It's so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them launch you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. In Weird, the Al Yankovic story, we take a weird look into every facet of Yankovic's life, from his meteoric rise to fame with his early hits like Eat It and Like a Surgeon, to his torrid celebrity love affairs and famously deprived lifestyle.
I'm tired of people thinking I'm some kind of joke.
Your dad and I agreed it will be best if you just stop being who you are and doing the things you love.
My whole life, all I wanted.
I'm afraid we found your son at a polka party.
Is to make up new words to a song that already exists.
Oh, well, you should do that then.
My little hungry one, open up a package of my banana.
Dude, I've got chills.
Every once in a great while, I can spot a talent that I know is the future of music. But first, we gotta find you a stage name. Al Yankovic. It's long, it's hard to pronounce. So I'm just gonna throw this out there. Weird Al Yankovic.
I love it.
Weird Al has taken the world by storm.
Do I know you?
Madonna, I was wondering if you were going to do a parody of my song, Like a Virgin.
I'm curious, is that song autobiographical?
Yes. Except for the fact that I've had a lot of sex.
Name me one creative genius that doesn't have a checkered past involving alcohol
That's the medicine.
and drugs.
I think Madonna's a bad influence on you. What? No offense.
I'm a train wreck. My parents wrote me off. I pushed away my band.
You're all just a bunch of normals. I'm the weird one.
You gotta take care of yourself. I saw in you something special. An artist with something to give to the world.
In front of all the billions of people walking around the world right now, all I want to say is be as weird as you want to be. You will never find true happiness until you can truly accept who you are. Thank you.
Weird is a retelling of a life that only Weird Al could sell. It's outlandish, absurd, over-the-top, ridiculous, and at times eye-rolling, awkward. But I have to say, I loved this film. Weird is a parody of a parody of a parody upon itself. With Oscar time coming around, it's a perfect satire for those that come out as pure Oscar bait, that plays the game of absurdity tug-of-war with the audience and keeps pulling until we are just engulfed into the mind and creativity of Weird Al Yankovic. The film was written by Weird Al Yankovic, of course, and in which you can tell, and also written and directed by Eric Appel, which is an absolutely perfect choice for this film. Appel gets the meta audience and knows how to balance and appease to all audiences of entertainment definitions. He is also responsible for some unique and clever TV shows, including Son of Zorn, The New Girl, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and one of my favorites, Blue Mountain State. Now, I didn't know what I was about to see or experience when it comes to Weird. I didn't do any research before viewing Weird, and while I thought I was getting just another straightforward biopic, there's a moment in the beginning where we see young Al, played by Richard Aaron Anderson, as he interacts with his parents, and it was so over the top I tilted my head in confusion on where this movie was actually going to go. As the movie plays for another 10-15 minutes, it's pretty clear on what the movie was trying to do. Now, here's the magic to this film, is that it starts off with an over-the-top biopic, and me being skeptical on how long the filmmakers are going to be able to have enough steam and material to keep this type of humor without overstaying its welcome the entire runtime. And honestly, it doesn't keep the steam in the beginning, rather it shovels a dump truck of coal into the engine as it goes full steam ahead. As we see Weird Al evolve evolve in his music, we see the film get more and more ridiculous. We start to see the escalation of insanity when we see Weird Al perform one of his first performances in a dive biker bar, where we see Rainn Wilson, who plays Dr. Demento, dressed in a tuxedo and a tall black top hat, amongst the beers, tank tops, and leather biker gear, to give Weird Al his being discovered moment. And just the mere sight of Rainn Wilson in his tux and his body language is just pure genius, and Rainn plays it off absolutely perfectly. The film just doesn't put random acts of randomness that we see in screwball parodies like we see in the Scary Movie franchise, Not Another Teen Movie, Spy Hard, etc., etc. It walks a fine line between this genre and standing on its own. The comedy doesn't feel out of place, and it feels at home in its own skin and allows the cast and characters to be comfortable in the work that they are doing. A good scene that is a prime example of how balanced and good the material is when we have Rainn Wilson's character Dr. Demento throwing a party with popular characters from the 80s such as Pee Wee Herman, Tiny Tim, Alice Cooper, Wolfman Jack, John Deacon, and my personal favorite, which would be Conan O'Brien as Andy Warhol, and also Gallagher. Now, we got the news today that Gallagher has unfortunately passed away, and I just wanted to take the moment to say our thoughts and prayers are with the family of Gallagher. He was a true 80s comedic legend, and just the mere presence of him in this movie just brought a smile to my face. Now, the characters here are so over the top and overacted that it actually works. Now, the cameos here are almost a parody on itself. The cameos here mostly are not played by the actual people, but the cameos that do play them are in top form. Now, I can only imagine coming on set and seeing everybody dressed in the elaborate costumes, seeing Daniel Radcliffe with his hair and mustache. You can't tell me at least one of the cameo talents didn't question the kind of movie they were in. It was comical to me to even just imagine the reaction, the pure randomness of the moment when these cameos came together to the point where you can feel the fun the cast has with each other based on how they interact. The entire cast seems to be in complete unison whenever they interact with each other, and this shows the forte of director Eric Appel and truly understands Weird Al Yankovic's fan base to live up to their expectations and to add some fun elements to the musician biopics that we have seen over and over and over again with the same outcome of tragedy. Even though this movie is far from factual, we still root for Weird Al's character played brilliantly by Radcliffe, who strangely enough is the most subtle thing about the movie until we get to the final act, and it complements the film's ludicrousy perfectly. It reminded me of the great Liam Neeson subtleties during his performances, only the film doesn't go as far as that in-your-face slapstick. It's almost like we're living inside Weird Al Yankovic's imagination, and at times we were reminded of his film UHF from 1989 when it comes to some Weird Al touches. And honestly, it's weird to say this about a Weird Al movie, but this one's a little bit more mature than UHF, but mainly because it has a better vision and a much better character direction. But it still has the charm and innocence enough to its humor without becoming a victim of annoyance in its comedy. That is the tricky thing to balance in a film like this. To go from watchable to what the hell did I just watch to annoyance. It never truly goes to the annoyance category, and when we ask ourselves what the hell was that, it's followed by a laugh and you don't know why you're laughing at it. What really keeps this film interesting and fresh is the freshness of not seeing a film like this that often, with the charisma and courage of something different. Now, we're in an evolution of comedy in films that we see over and over again that focus mostly on sarcastic, quick wit comebacks, gross out factor, and a dry office TV sitcom type of humor. This is a film that is much needed to throw a wrench into the gears to give us a new fresh look at comedy. It's almost like looking in a history book of comedy that we haven't seen in a while. It pulls the audience in on what the movie is trying to do next, and the climax does not disappoint on the absurdity. The only thing I wish I would have loved to see more in this musical, crazy, absurd biopic is more of Weird Al's music included into the film. Even more live performances to really appreciate the weirdness and talent of Weird Al. The film is so focused on being something different it forgets to include the reason there is a film in the first place. Weird, the Al Yankovic Story is fresh, something different, and is a game changer to bring back some comedy from the past that we've forgotten about. And it's a pleasure to see something different that's a change we get at this time of year during the Oscar push. And Weird Al takes advantage of the timing of this release to make it a satire out of that. The film is more clever than one would think it should be, and that is the best part of its true individuality that it makes itself. It is nearly impossible not to smile at some point in this movie, and if you find out it's not your cup of tea, you can at least appreciate the film for its boldness of trying something different from the status quo. Give into the silliness, give into the dumbness, give into the pure absurdity, and given the material and its target, this movie is exactly what it should be. I'm giving Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, 3.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank our young critic Brooklyn for joining us once again, and I want to thank all of you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next week, do me a favor and make sure you stay for after the credits to show respect for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film. And make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.